Last year's secondary was not good, to say the least, but you look at social media, you look at reporting, and all of a sudden, this secondary looks like it might have something for 2026.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Welcome to Locked On SMU on this Wednesday. I'm Grayson Singleton. Appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. And make sure you subscribe to the channel as well so you can be a part of this growing community. Coming up on the show today, is there going to be a game where Rhett Lashlee is at a distinct coaching disadvantage this upcoming season? We'll talk about that. Plus, will pressure from the defensive line also help a rejuvenated secondary? And I'll give you some numbers about how this came and how it went in 2025. So we'll talk about that to close up the show. So let's start with this rebuilt secondary, and it's going to be good. I'm going to go ahead and proclaim that right now. Now, I don't know if it's going to be top of the line. I'm not saying that SMU is going to be the best pass defense in the country, but this secondary is going to be good. I don't think we're going to go through a second year in a row of the secondary being so bad. And if you pay attention to SMU's social media and you can see some of the footage from spring practices, they put out a clip where they labeled it the no-fly zone. Now, I, as a Denver Broncos fan, am not too thrilled about them using that nickname from the 2015 Denver Broncos Super Bowl championship team. But I gotta say, it looks like the secondary is a lot more physical and is a lot more aggressive at attacking the ball than it was a year ago. And if they're showing that in spring now, I read a report the other day, I think it was from Billy Embody on On3, want to give proper credit, but I think I read a report where they said Rhett Lashlee is allowing more physicality at spring ball this year. And if that is true, that would correlate to what SMU social media has been pushing out to all of us that I saw yesterday. And when you look at the availability of some of these dudes, and you look also at the size gains that some of them have had, and that they are another year wiser, you kind of look at this and you're like, okay, this actually might be something. You look at safety. We know Tyren Polley is a guy that we can project to be potentially a star this year. Ball hawk. He's a gamer. I think he takes the place of Ahmad Moses as that playmaker in terms of creating turnovers or creating problems in the defensive backfield. I think Jalen Milner-Jones can be a guy that we look at and say, okay, you've made a market improvement to the point where you're actually going to help us this year. I think Jaden, was a little bit lost in the shuffle in terms of moving around positions last year. Remember that? There was a time where Rhett Lashlee said we really couldn't find a functional two deep in the defensive backfield, so stuff was being adjusted on the fly all the time, and nobody could really get settled. And Jaden was a part of that. I think Jaden could be an interesting player. Obviously, Jimmy Wyrick factors into this. And how about Jarvis Lee, man? Go watch one of those videos that SMU put out, and you see Jarvis Lee in there breaking up a pass and being physical in the slot. I think Jarvis Lee could really give this SMU team something in 2026. I'm not going to promise what kind of player, but I think Jarvis Lee is going to be a gamer. He's going to be a real player in this secondary. And then you have the guy that I've been high on this entire offseason and really since the tail end of last year, even though he wasn't fantastic a year ago. Marcellus Barnes. I think Marcellus Barnes is going to be a true number one corner. Again, I don't know if he's all ACC. I think that is a possibility. But at 6'1", 180, he's got good size on him, long arms, and he showed improvement, almost like Jaden Toombs in a way. Almost like Jaden Toombs in basketball this year, where you always saw that it was going to be there, and then around the tail end of the year, you saw this. And It wasn't superstar level, but it was, I got it. I see something there. That's what that was with Marcellus Barnes. And I think SMU's got its number one corner. I don't think SMU had a surefire number one corner on the outside last year. I don't think it was there. I think it's there this year. I think you've got a true number one corner for your team. You've got a guy in the slot in Jarvis Lee who can cause some problems. Tyren Polley is projected to be a really good safety. He already showed flashes last year. And then you've got a bunch of guys who have just been physical and good in spring ball. I like what I see. They're going up against good receivers and a good quarterback. A quarterback that people think might be top 15 in the country. And they're making plays. And this is a credit to Rhett Lashlee and the entire coaching staff as well, because if you see, okay, we had some issues last year. What's a way we can fix it going into this year? Let's get a little bit more physical in practice. Let's let these guys actually do what they are comfortable doing and need to do to get themselves up to football speed. Don't hurt anybody, but a little extra physicality in practice is not going to be a bad thing as long as you keep everybody healthy. And when you look at the intel and you look at the video and you look at the clips, you look at the socials and all that, and you also look at the availability of the roster and who they brought in, I think this SMU secondary, at the very worst, is not going to be the glaring weak link on this team like it was in 2025. Because that's what it was. If there was one unit that you could point to last year and say, where is SMU's Achilles heel? It was their pass defense. Run defense was pretty solid. They got after the quarterback pretty well. Get back to that at the end of the show. Everything on offense, they did pretty well. Their one Achilles heel was that they could not stop the pass. And when it got time to make a play in the secondary to make sure that you won a ball game, look at 3 of the 4 losses. When you played Sawyer Robertson, Josh Hoover, and JKS. Dudes cut SMU up. And arguably, those were 3 of the, let's call it 4 best quarterbacks that you played, along with Carson Beck. So they needed a real improvement in the secondary. And I think they got it. They've got it this year. They brought in some new players, but I think you're going to see some players that are going to be SMU homegrown that are going to shine as well. Marcellus Barnes being one of them. I'm high on Marcellus Barnes, even though I know he started at Syracuse. But as a redshirt sophomore, I'm high on Marcellus Barnes. Give me the Marcellus Barnes stock. Give me the Tyren Polley stock. I don't know how cheap I can get Jarvis Lee stock because he's kind of already a proven commodity, but give me some of that as well. And again, I don't know if SMU is going to be the best secondary in the ACC. Would be a little bit of a brash claim on April 1st. But I think they're going to be solid. It's going to be a pretty solid unit this year because at least what I see in spring practice is those guys are flying around, getting deflections, causing problems, hitting people. Love to see it. I love to see it from this SMU secondary from what I have seen and heard so far out of spring practice. All right, coming up next, is Rhett Lashlee ever going to be at a distinct coaching disadvantage in 2026? Maybe, or maybe not. We'll see. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell all your positions live all game long. You can use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real TurboTax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Back here on the show, Grayson Singleton, Locked On SMU. Hey, make sure that you give a subscription to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get alerted every time we premiere new episodes and so you can join our community as well. Hit me on Twitter, Gray_Singleton2, and make sure you follow Locked On SMU on all social medias. Okay, so Rhett Lashlee, I've been thinking about this, and we talk a lot about player improvements as players get bigger, maybe they get another year, something like that, but what about Rhett? What about Coach Lashlee in comparison to the coaches that SMU is going to be playing in 2026? Can Rhett Lashlee be somebody who has, and who gives SMU an advantage over some teams? And I think the answer could potentially be yeah. Because if you look at the roster, if you look at the slate of coaches that SMU is going to go against, are the Mustangs at a clear disadvantage coaching-wise? There are a couple games where you could potentially say yes. I think Jeff Brom is a game where you could say, okay, he's a better coach than Rhett Lashlee, except Rhett's 2-0 against him. Now, last year, he didn't have his quarterback and the two starting running backs. So Louisville was playing a little bit from behind there, but I would wager to say that SMU was a slightly better team than Louisville all season long, and Rhett Lashlee did beat them in 2024. Okay, Marcus Freeman has accomplished a lot more than Rhett Lashlee has. No offense to Rhett Lashlee, but I think that's the fact right now. So I would say Marcus Freeman is a better coach than Rhett Lashlee. Everywhere else on the schedule, I don't really know. I think in at least 10 of the 12 games, SMU has the coaching advantage over over their opponent, excuse me. 10 out of the 12 games, they've got a coaching advantage over who their opponent is. Now, this gets dicey when you get to Virginia Tech. That's the one where I look at and say, okay, this is interesting. Because James Franklin, as a head coach, number one, he's been doing it a lot longer at the P4 level than Rhett Lashlee and SMU have. And he did win 80% of his games at Penn State. But here's the equalizer. Yeah, Penn State did. It's still absurd to me that Penn State fired a coach that won that many games. But a lot of coaching in college is about vibes. But the equalizer to that is Virginia Tech going to match up talent-wise with SMU? And sure, coaching can be its own thing, and coaches can elevate talent, sure, but it's a symbiotic relationship between players and coaches and how they influence each other and how they prop each other up. Like, no coach is going to be excellent with mediocre players. You can't do that year over year over year. That's not how that will be. Interesting to see if James Franklin can elevate Virginia Tech back to where, Virginia Tech was in the Frank Beamer days. And if he can do that overnight. But the rest of the schedule, outside of the people that I just named, Rhett Lashlee's the best coach in all those games. He's a better coach than Mike Norvell. He is a better coach right now than Casey Woods, who has never been a head coach. I have no idea who the coach is at UC Davis. Let's see, Syracuse is on the schedule. I think he's a better coach than Fran Brown. Cal has a first-year head coach. And there's Boston College with Bill O'Brien. Don't get me started with that. So you see where we're going here. In that SMU schedule shakes out favorably, not just on the football field, but on the headsets. as well. And part of this, too, are the improvements that we hope Rhett Lashlee himself is going to make, because coaches can get better and grow as well. And they handled some things well last year. They handled some things not so well last year. One area I want to see Rhett Lashlee's offense improve upon is being better at the beginning of games. And in the Holiday Bowl, they were. In the Louisville game, they certainly were. Cal game took them a little bit, ultimately lost the game. So can they be better earlier in games more consistently? That's something I want to see. And that goes to game planning and scripting and all that. And also some execution from the players has something to do with that as well. But in the totality of resumes and in terms of operating programs, there's not too many coaches that have been better that are on SMU's schedule than Rhett Lashlee. And I think Rhett's going to be important, because if this team is going to get where it wants to and kind of knows it can get, let's be real, especially given the schedule, you're going to need the coach to be able to take you over the top. You get as much as you can get from the players, and then can Rhett make things just slightly easy for you to knock off or deliver the kill shot to some of these teams? Because you have to go on the road to Louisville. You have to go on the road to Florida State. Power 4 team, ACC team, not really sure how good they'll be, but they'll be on the road. Can you avoid major pitfalls? Like the Wake Forest loss. The Wake Forest loss, ultimately, and Cal was a solid team, so I'm not going to say Cal cost them a ticket to the ACC championship game, even though theoretically they did. But the Wake Forest loss is what really put the season in jeopardy. So can they avoid a pitfall to a team that they should absolutely not lose to? That'll be another part of Rhett Lashlee's improvement, is that can they continue to go to bad teams or play bad teams and beat them and not get beat by bad teams? Because Wake Forest was not a great team last year, and they had a bad quarterback situation. So can you do that? Can you get more aggressive and more efficient at the beginning of games? And then can he empower Maurice Crum to take over for Scott Simons and deliver another quality defensive performance? That's the three I'm looking at. Can he get more out of his offense early in games? Can they avoid pitfalls? And can he make another solid defensive coordinator hire? And can that defensive coordinator not improve, but perform? If he can do that, I think Rhett's going to be one of the top 3 coaches in the ACC. Maybe top 5, top 3. And the program's going to continue to look really, really good under his stewardship, if he can do all of that, which I think he can. Because outside of Marcus Freeman, name me a coach who's definitively better than him. Sure, maybe James Franklin, who's got more skins on the wall. But will the talent equalize it out? We shall see. But other than those two, I'd say the coaching advantage is in SMU's favor. Yeah, you could say Jeff Brom, but my argument is Lashlee's 2-0 against him in 2 seasons in the ACC. So I'll take my chances so far. Coming up next on Locked On SMU, we'll close up the show talking about the defensive line. Do they need to get better pressure next year? We thought it was good last year, but find out why I think it could be even better in next year. Coming up next. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have got to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing people who check those boxes. It's less stress, less time, with more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, one more segment here on Locked On SMU on this Wednesday. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hey, make sure you tap in with our Everydayer Club. Get your first month of the Everydayer Club for free when you use code MARCH. You'll unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonsmu.supercast.com to claim your free month. Okay, pressure. It's going to go hand in hand with the secondary improvements that we talked about at the beginning of the show. But there were times that SMU did not get a whole lot of pressure. Now, you might be looking at the raw numbers and saying, wait a minute, well, SMU's losing 8.5 sacks from Isaiah Smith, 5 sacks from Cam Robinson, 5.5 sacks from Terry Webb, 5 sacks from Jeffrey Mbaugh. That sounded pretty good, right? Well, yeah, it did. But it can be a lot better. So for the record, SMU is only returning 1 sack from last year, and that's from Kevin Allen. But you look at the games SMU lost, and we have a very, very clear reason as to why. So in the Baylor game, Sawyer Robertson diced up SMU. He was only sacked twice, and he's not a mobile quarterback. In the TCU game, Josh Hoover diced up SMU, only sacked twice. Now, he is a more mobile quarterback. The Cal loss, JKS dices up SMU. The Mustangs don't get a sack. So what we're hearing is that in critical times, the Mustangs' pressure abandoned them. And sure, some of those games, there were times where Cam Robinson didn't play. I believe he played in those first 2 that I just referenced. But there were times where SMU's pressure completely abandoned them. And does it negate the fact that the secondary was terrible? No. But it did a damn good job of exposing it. So if the secondary is going to improve, that's great. But the Mustangs need to get more consistent pressure on the quarterback. Now, some of this had to do with the fact that they had guys hurt. Turbo missed a game. Cam Robinson missed several games. So that doesn't help. DJ Warner didn't really develop like we thought he was, even though he was still a young guy. But the pressure that they did get last year, they have got to completely replace. Turbo's gone, Cam's gone, Jeff's gone, Terry Webb is gone. Okay, they only returned 1 sack from last year because Billy Walton transferred to Oklahoma State. DJ Warner is no longer here as well. So you're gonna have to really replace that, and they've got the dudes to do so because Malcolm Alcorn Crowder has looked good. Some of the other guys, Christian Davis, transfer from La Tech, looks really good. People are excited about Wu Spencer and Jonathan Jefferson. So you've got dudes that have inspired confidence and inspired excitement, but they need to not only get pressure, but do so consistently and also do so in the right moments. Because that's what SMU did not do last year, especially when you look at the games they lost. They lost those games and had no pressure on the quarterbacks whatsoever. Sawyer Robertson was sitting in a clean pocket as he led Baylor to a come-from-behind victory. Part of the reason SMU couldn't get stops against TCU is because late in the game, they did not touch Josh Hoover. They could not stop Cal's offense because Sungapolotele just had clean pockets the entire time. Just easy. What does Stephen A. Smith used to say? Sitting back in the pocket, calling the lady, hey, what's for dinner? how you doing, how's the house, and then firing the ball because nobody was touching them. So SMU had problems in late game situations getting pressure on the quarterback. Now, I do think this could potentially be remedied because I think the Mustangs could be deeper at defensive line this year. And that could be a big thing because outside of the starting four, the Mustangs did not get hardly anything pressure-wise from anybody else. DJ Warner had 1 sack. Billy Walton had 2 sacks. Kevin Allen had 1 sack. That's the only sacks that SMU got from dudes not on that starting four. So they could have the chance to be a little bit deeper. They've got veterans both at D tackle and D end on both sides of the 2 deep. So it's not just going to be the first line. It should be the second wave of guys that have some experience as well and have been in college programs for a time. So you should be a little bit better there, and I think that should inspire some confidence there. But they better. That's what I'll say. They better, because they are going to face some decent quarterback play, especially if you want to go to South Bend and knock off CJ Carr and Notre Dame. You're going to have to get some pressure. And against a good offensive line, too. You're going to have to get some pressure. So that's going to be my big thing heading into the season. One of them is, can they get more consistent pressure from more than just 4 guys? Maybe Jarvis Lee factors in as a blitzer. Maybe some of the linebackers factor in as blitzers, which certainly had to do with the situational pressure that they weren't able to get, is that they also never blitzed in high leverage situations. But that'll be something to keep an eye on. And if the secondary is going to be better, that will certainly go hand in hand with some heightened level of pressure as well in the 2026 season. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU today. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen as always. Make sure you check out the Everydayer Club as well, because if you never miss an episode, that's what's built for you. Get Locked On SMU ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonsmu.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen of the day Locked On College Basketball. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow for a Thursday episode of the show. I'm Grayson Singleton. Take it easy, everyone.